Hi, this is Tutor Ali, and the topic I'm going to cover today is some tips for your exam. The learning goals for this topic is why take the PMP exam, qualifying to take the PMP exam, applying to take the PMP exam, materials to use for the PMP exam, what is the PMP exam like, and what should be your study plan. So let's jump to the first slide, is why take the PMP exam. Preparing to take the PMP exam is like a project by itself, which has a defined start and an end. And the project that we have over here is to take our PMP exam and pass the exam. Now this project will help you become a better project manager by helping you learn how to apply the project management framework in your professional life. Now passing the exam is a challenge that you as a PMP or a CAPM aspirant is willing to take on and get to the next level. Understanding all the processes and knowledgeable areas is extremely important to be successful in this endeavor. The exam focuses and tests you on your real-world experience as a project manager and how you will handle the different scenarios. So having work experience, especially when you're giving your PMP exam, is extremely important. If you're giving your CAPM exam, again it's an entry-level exam, so as far as you have knowledge of the PMBOK and the framework and the processes, then you are good. Passing this exam will give you a step up compared with other project managers without the PMP certification. The salary surveyed by the Project Management Institute says that those who have the PMP certification earn 10% more than those who don't. Now all these are good incentives to take the PMP exam and get the 3 letters after your name. Now I am going to help you through this whole process and journey to take this exam, and I'm going to help you understand how all the processes and knowledge areas are connected to each other and understand all of them in detail as to what they are. Now let's get to the next topic, is qualifying to take the PMP exam. Now everyone cannot take the PMP exam. You have to qualify to take the PMP exam, and there are a few qualifying things that you need to satisfy to take your PMP exam. When it comes to the CAPM exam, all it requires is either 1,500 hours of work experience or 23 hours of project management education. Again, this will help you qualify to take the exam. Without the training, you cannot even apply for your exam unless you have 1,500 hours of experience. You will have to work hard and apply all your experience. If you are new to project management, then applying for the CAPM exam first is more advisable than taking the PMP exam. Studying from my videos will give you the required qualified education for this exam. Now please visit www.pmi.org for the latest updates on CAPM exam eligibility requirement, as this can always change. Now if you're giving the PMP exam, it requires 5 years of experience and 35 hours of project management education to qualify your exam with a high school degree. Again, if you have a bachelor's degree, then all you need is 3 years of experience and 35 hours of project management education for qualification. For your PMP exam, the 35 hours of project management training education is mandatory. For the CAP exam, either you have the 1500 hours of work experience or 23 hours of project management education to qualify for this exam. But for the PMP exam, along with the experience, you have to have 35 hours of project management education for qualification. Now to get the 35 hours of education to qualify for this exam, you could get it in a variety of different ways. You could attend a community college where they offer training in project management in the possible 5 different process groups or the 10 different knowledge areas, and accordingly you will get the number of hours that is required for your PMP exam. Again, I would say it's better to get these 35 hours at a training institute or even through my videos, which is geared more towards your exam, and it covers all the 47 processes and the 10 knowledge areas. Now again, you have to visit pmi.org for the latest updates on PMP exam eligibility requirements, as this can always change. Now if you look over here in general education, for the project management education you need 35 hours if you have a high school degree, and if you have a bachelor's degree, again you need the same 35 hours. Now how much experience you need for the PMP exam? 5 years. And how much experience you need if you have a bachelor's? 3 years. If you have a high school degree, then it's 5 years. For the CAPM exam, either you need the 1500 hours of experience or 23 hours of project management education. That's all you need. Now let's go to the next topic that we have, is applying to take the exam. To apply for the exam, you have to submit an application to PMI. Applications may be submitted by mail or online. The preferred method, I would say, and the faster method you have over here, is applying through online, because you can fill the application online, you can pay for the fees online, you can get the PMI membership online, so everything is done online and you don't have to even leave your desk. Once you apply, you will receive a notice authorizing you to make an appointment to take the exam. Now, you will get the notice provided you're not subject to audit of your application before it is approved. So what PMI does, it does random auditing. So just to make sure that who's applying for the exam is qualified to take the exam. So in the audit, they will ask you for all the documentation that you put in your application. For example, you say that you have 35 hours of education related to project management, then they will probably ask you to submit proof as to where you completed this, where is the certificate, and how did you get it, when did you start, when did you finish. So that is part of their audit. Also, more importantly, they are going to audit your documents. If you say you have a bachelor's degree, then they might ask you for your proof, as in transcripts for that. Or if you have a high school degree, then they might ask you for your high school transcripts. Also, if you are showing 1,500 or 5,000 or 3,500 hours of work experience, then they will ask you for a letter from your employer who you worked with and you accumulated all these hours. So the audit can go in detail, so be prepared if you ever get audited. And now again, audit is random. They just randomly select certain applicants just to make sure that those applying for this exam are qualified. The next thing is you can choose to give the computer-based exam or paper-based exams. Now, paper-based exams are cheaper in fees, but the exam results and the application process takes longer. On the other hand, the computer-based tests, the results are instant and the whole application is online. While applying to take the exam, you have to plan ahead of time as to when you would like to schedule for the exam. This is because some prometric testing centers might be overbooked and it might be tough to request the date that you like. Once your application has been approved, this is important, you have 1 year to schedule and take the exam. If 1 year has passed, then you have to reapply all over again. Now let's go to the next topic. What is the PMP exam like? The PMP exam is easy if you study and are well prepared. If not, then you will even have problems finishing the exam on time. You should know there are 200 questions and all you have is 4 hours. That corresponds to a little over a minute for every question that you have. Now, the PMP exam is known for giving you lengthy and wordy questions. So by the time you're ended reading the question, you already utilize 20 to 25 seconds. And then you have to read all the different 4 options that you have as answers, because these are multiple choice questions. So just going through the questions, reading these answers will take you close to like 40 seconds. And then you have to decide which one is the right answer. And a lot of times they are going to try to confuse you with the answer choices that you have. You might have 4 answers and all the 4 answers might be right, but you have to pick the answer that is more correct than the other ones, or you have to pick the answer which is more related to the question that they are asking you. So that's why it's important even to read the question very carefully. You won't get 100% questions from the PMBOK guide, so experience is a must. Just do not rely on the PMBOK guide, because the questions are asked even out of the PMBOK guide. They want to make sure that you know what you are doing. They want to make sure that you are ready to be a project manager. They want to make sure that you have experience in project management. They want to make sure that you have spent these many hours to study for your PMP exam. Without studying properly and investing time for your exam, I would say it is next to impossible to pass your exam. Even experienced project managers with years and years of experience would fail the exam because they just think that they have worked so long, they have all the experience, but that is not true. Because again, you have to read the PMBOK guide and understand the framework. Every company that you work for follow a different kind of process. And what the PMBOK guide does is frames it all together and shows you what the correct process and procedure is. It is really important you have professional training in project management which is aligned with the PMBOK guide. Again, I say this because it doesn't matter how much experience you have as a project manager, you need professional training which again is aligned with the PMBOK guide. The next thing I would like to say is do not get fooled with training centers which give you 100% pass guarantee, like a 4-day boot camp, and they ask you for thousands of dollars. It is just not physically or mentally possible. So you have to read the fine print. Now, to pass the PMP exam, you have to carefully read the PMBOK guide word by word and understand everything. You have to read it at least once. My advice is read it at least twice. And just reading it once, it itself takes no less than 2 weeks, because it is like a 800 or a 700 page book. How do you read that big book in less than 2 weeks? On top of that, the book is black and white, and it's really boring. If you open the PMBOK guide, then you would know what I'm talking about. So again, I say don't get fooled with training centers giving you 100% pass guarantee, because at the end of the day, it is your hard work that will guarantee you with a PMP certificate. The PMP exam consists of 200 questions to be answered within 4 hours. And again, every question you have a little over a minute, like a minute and 15 seconds. Each actual PMP exam contains 25 pre-test questions which are being studied for test reliability and validity before included in later versions of the official exam. So out of 200 questions, 25 questions are going to be pre-test questions. And in these pre-test questions, they are not used for scoring. So if you get all the 25 questions wrong, it doesn't matter. But the problem that we have over here is PMI doesn't tell you which ones of those 200 questions are the pre-test questions. So again, with the pre-test questions, keep that in mind. Those 25 questions are taking at least half an hour of your exam away from you. So now you're left with just 3.5 hours. And again, you don't know which ones are those 25 pre-test questions. The passing score on the exam is anywhere from 61 to 70%. Now, nobody knows the exact score, and only PMI does. PMI doesn't publish it, and there's no way to know which is the passing score. It is safer to assume 70%. So when you are practicing for your exam and you are taking sample tests online, make sure you get at least 70 to 75% questions right, just to feel more confident and comfortable before you take your PMP exam. Now, the questions on the PMP exams are really not that tough. They are tough only if you are not well prepared. There are students who finish the PMP exam in 2.5 hours as well, and then they have the rest of the time just to go through the questions and make sure they pick the right answers. So the more prepared you are, the faster your exam can be taken, and you will be more confident about passing this exam. Now, the less prepared you are, obviously you are spending more time on your questions just by reading them and trying to understand. So being well prepared is the key to pass your exam. Now, the questions are randomly generated from a database containing hundreds of questions. There is no penalty for wrong answers, as in there is no negative marking. Here you can see what percentage of questions are asked from which process groups. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 process groups. The initiating process group has questions that's worth 13% of your exam. The planning process group has 24% of your exam worth of questions. The executing process group has the most, which is 30% of your exam. The monitor and control process group, they have 25% questions on your exam, and the closing process group has 8% of your exam. Now, some students might think, I don't have enough time, so maybe I can probably skip either the initiating or the closing process group because it doesn't have much percentage of questions. But you should know that the initiating group has just 2 processes and closing group has 2 processes as well, which adds to 21% of your exam just in those 4 processes. Now, in planning, you have 24 processes, the most number of processes. And the exam, you have just 24% of questions. So I wouldn't say it would be smart to skip either one of this process or any of the 5 process groups. Because you skip any of the 5 process groups, then that will result in skipping at least 25% of your exam, which will result in failure. Now let's jump to the next slide, which is materials to use for your PMP exam. Now you can use the PMBOK guide, which is all you need to pass this exam. PMBOK Guide is a stand-alone preparation tool. Only problem with that is it's too wordy, too lengthy, and too boring. So it's always good to have an audio video presentation or a live presentation or some kind of a professional training where they stress on the important parts that you need to know for your exam. In addition to your PMBOK guide, you can use my videos, which includes close to 500 possible questions that can be asked on your exam and answers to those questions. Also, my videos are a more colorful experience and easy to understand. In my videos, I explain you how all these 47 processes and 10 knowledge areas connect with each other using my grid technique. The next thing I would like to say is do not risk overstudying or confusing yourself, looking into every single resource you can get your hands on. All you need, as I said, if you don't have many resources, you just read the PMBOK guide 3 times and you are good to go. Or you read the PMBOK guide once, view my videos and question and answer twice, and then you are good to go. So the thumb rule here is 3 times going through the whole coursework. And if you go through the whole coursework, that is when it sticks, and that is when you have no problem passing your exam. So no matter what type of training you are using, what type of books you are using, there are so many good books out there with really good authors and good reviews. Make sure you don't go over this whole process more than 3 times. You can go more than 3 times, but that would be a lot. Approximately, just to go over this whole material for the whole course for 3 times, it will take you close to a little over 2 months of 3 to 4 hours studying 5 days a week. If you think that you will pass the exam in just 2 or 3 weeks of preparation by just reading the PMBOK guide, let me tell you again that you will not pass the exam. So what you have is my 35 hours interactive videos. I would say view the videos once. Then you have the PMBOK guide, which is either the 4th or the 5th edition, whichever exam that you're going to take. Now the PMBOK guide is the international standard for project management from the Project Management Institute, which is PMI. So now you've gone through my videos once, you've read the PMBOK guide twice, and the last thing you need to do is go through my chapter reviews with the questions and answers twice. So if you do all of this, I'm pretty sure that you will succeed in your exam. Now, while you're going through the reviews and questions and answers, the reason why I say twice is first you're going to review the whole videos, which is once, and these are detailed chapter videos where you could listen, where you could hear, where you could read, and where you could see. Once these detailed videos are done, I have put in reviews for all these chapters which were covered in detail before. Now these reviews include at least half an hour review of every chapter that we covered over here in detail. On top of that, we have at least half an hour to 40 minutes of questions and answers that I go through which can possibly be asked for your exams. So these materials are good enough for your study, and again, do not over study or do not confuse yourself with thousands of different resources. Another thing I would like to say is when you go online, you can find so many good websites with thousands and thousands of questions. But my advice would be wait to get to those questions till you finish 1, 2, and 3 steps over here. Once you are done over here with at least one chapter review with the questions and answers, then you can jump to those thousands of questions that you can find online, and you can test yourself. You can test as to how much you know, and you can test if you are getting 70% to 80% of your questions right. Do not jump to the questions before you finish at least the 3 times course review. Now the reason why I say that is because when you start going through the questions for the first time, which is an important time, then you probably might get 50 to 60% right, again, which is not enough. But so you will go back to study, and when you come back and give the same multiple choice questions, then you have already answered those questions before, so you already know what the answers are. So there's no way that you can accurately test yourself saying that, hey, I got 70 to 80% of questions right, because you had taken those multiple choice questions before. Now, once we have the materials that we can use for the PMP exam, next thing we are going to see is how to use the material. First of all, I would like to say that these video downloads are just meant for you and only you. It is not to be shared with anyone else. Now my videos are copywritten, and any form of misuse will be reported. As a PMI member, we all have to follow the PMI Code of Ethics. If you find anyone distributing these videos, please write to me and I will personally take the required action, and thank you for letting me know. Now the next thing we see over here is the best way to go through this videos is to open the episode directory file, which is provided to you along with your downloads. Now this is a PDF file, and all the chapters are listed in numerical order, starting with the welcome file and ending with the goodbye file. Now let's take a look at how the episode directory file looks like. Now this is your episode directory file, and this has all the episodes that you need to go through. So again, you're going to start all the way from the top with the welcome, and you are going to end all the way down with a goodbye. These lectures are full of audio visual slides and have easy to remember techniques. So throughout the lecture, where I will show you how everything works, how everything is connected, how everything is color coded, and how to use my technique to study for your exam and to easily remember everything that's there from your PMBOK guide. These videos are designed such that you can even listen to them on your iPad or iPhone or your smartphone or even your iPod. Like if you are going to the gym, if you are a passenger in the car, then you can listen to these videos or even watch it on your smartphone. Just make sure that you don't listen to these videos or watch them while doing activities that require 100% attention, and one of that is while driving. Do not talk on the phone while driving, do not listen to my videos while driving, because that might cause accidents. The slides in these videos are so detailed and interactive that you can always even put me on mute and follow it. Just by looking at the screen, you could even read it yourself. Now I have to say this again. You have to try to go through the review and the questions and answers for each chapter at least twice. Once after watching all my detailed videos for the first time, and the second time could be a day or two before you appear for your PMP exam. Now the next topic which I'm going to talk over here is your study plan. So obviously you have to view all the slides which we just went through before, and after that you're going to get to your study plan. So in study plan, all you are doing is how you are going to plan to study to pass your exam. Now the PMBOK guide is designed in such a way that it includes the whole framework and the whole processes and the whole number of steps need to finish a project from inception to closing. Now they expect you to have been worked on a few projects. So why not think about your exam or you're taking your exam as a project by itself? And while you are studying, you are planning all the different processes, you are planning all the different knowledge areas that are included to finish this project, which is to get your PMP certification. So my advice over here would be, think about passing the PMP exam as your new project. And what techniques are you going to use to pass this exam? What knowledge areas are you going to use in your exam? So the first knowledge area that we will use is project integration management, where you start about talking about your exam, how you're going to manage your exam, how are you going to execute taking your exam. And the last process knowledge area is going to be closing, and the closing will come when you have your PMP certificate. So the second knowledge area that we will look into with respect to our certification is plan scope management. Now over here we are going to plan all that we need to study to get this certification. So we are going to plan the scope, as in we are going to plan all the 47 processes that we need to study. We need to study the project management framework. We need to study the project management process groups. We need to study the ethics of the project manager. We need to study all the different 10 knowledge areas. So this is the scope. So you have to plan how much are you going to study. You even have your formulas, your diagrams that you need to study. All that stuff needs to go in the scope. So I would suggest, obviously your scope should be 100% and study 100% of stuff that is required. Again, your scope could be how many times am I going to study or read the PMBOK guide, how many times am I going to use my videos, how many times I'm going to do the questions and answers, and what topics am I going to do, what formulas am I going to use, what diagrams am I going to draw, how many times am I going to draw these diagrams to really understand well, how many times am I going to make the network diagram. So all this is the scope of your study for this project. The next knowledge area which you would use is you will plan the time that you have for your preparation for this certification. How much time do I have? Do I have to finish the whole project of getting the certification in 1 month or 3 months? Do I have to finish it in 10 days or 15 days? Do I have to take classes to help myself prepare? How much time is these classes going to take? Am I taking a 4-day boot camp, or am I taking a 35 hours class with the length of 2 to 3 weeks? So I have to plan that as well, just to make sure that I finish everything on time. I have to plan when I'm going to start, when I'm going to take my classes, when I'm going to study on my own, when I'm going to do my questions and answers, when I'm going to go take a test, when I'm going to schedule for the test, when am I going to send in for the application, how much time is it going to take for my application to be approved. If I get audited, what am I going to do? Do I have all the paperwork ready? How much time is it going to take if I get audited? And everything depends on the audit. My time depends on audit. So if I had planned to finish this whole project of passing this exam in a total of 3 months, now if I'm audited, the time is going to change. So it'll be more than 3 months. And what is that going to have as an effect? So if anything changes, your scope changes, then the time is affected. If the time changes, then the scope is affected. If you have less time, if you have more time, then your quality is affected, then risk is affected. Everything is connected, just like a real project. The next thing is you will plan how much money are you going to spend on your resources for your study. So all I have is $1,000 for my whole certification, and I have to manage to pass my exam in that $1,000. So I have to buy the PMBOK guide, I have to get the membership of PMI, I have to buy different resources, different books, maybe questions and answers. I have to buy probably Tutor Ali's videos, and or I have to take a boot camp that costs so much. So I have to plan how much money I am going to spend for this certification, and I have to make sure I stick to my budget. Also, I have to plan like excess money or reserve, what happens if I fail the exam? If I fail the exam, then I have a second attempt, and the second attempt is going to be maybe $300. So I have to make sure that I have that excess money of $300 put somewhere aside in case if I fail the exam in my first attempt. Then the next thing you would do is plan the quality of your study. Now again, you should know these are all knowledge areas for a real project. But we are already starting to work as a project manager, and PMBOK guide or PMI expects you to even look at the exam in the form of a project. If you cannot plan your time, your scope, your money, how can you be a good project manager? So plan the quality of your study. Again, quality, scope, time, all money, all these are constraints which are connected together. So if you have less time to study, to prepare, then your quality of your study is not going to be good. If you have more time to study, then your quality is going to be better, but it might cost you more money. So you have to plan the quality of your study. You have to plan even the quality of the resources you are using, because if you are using the wrong resources and you're taking the wrong classes, for example taking a 4-day class and going crazy over there, then that would affect everything as well. It would affect the cost because you put in $2,000, $1,500 just for your 4-day boot camp, and then you are losing 4 days of work time because you're working, and then you have to go to school these 4 days. You probably might have to end up missing work, or you might have to go on the weekend or something like that. But you have to think, is it worth taking the boot camp and going there like for 35 non-stop hours? Or is it better to sit in the comfort of your home, in your desk, where you are studying yourself, going through these interactive videos, or reading yourself the PMBOK guide 2-3 hours every day before you sleep? So again, it is your choice and it is your plan. The main achievement or the main goal that we have over here is to get the certification. Also, plan how are you going to manage to study from all your resources. We have all these resources, all these books, all these tutorials, all these videos. So you have to manage that. How are you going to use all these resources? Are you going to use them completely? Or are you going to use them just partly? Well, I'm going to just study through Tutor Ali's questions and answers. I don't care about his detailed lessons. Or I'm just going to the PMBOK guide and I'm going to read the lessons in detail from the PMBOK guide. I'm going to go through this book and all I'm going to do is just the problems from that book, because that book explains the problems really well. Next thing is you are going to communicate with maybe your team members or your family of the decision of taking this PMP exam. Now, how is this going to help? Now, if you communicate, if you tell your family and friends or even colleagues that you are going to take this exam, then they can give you some really good tips. If they have already taken that exam, if they have passed the exam, if they have failed the exam, then they can tell you which are the good resources that you should look into and which are the good books out there that will help you pass this exam. So it's always good to communicate your decision with others, friends, families, colleagues while you are taking this exam, and you can always receive their support and help. The next thing you are going to do is you are going to even plan all the risks that are involved in your study. So you are going to plan the risk. For example, you have studied and you're going to take your exam and the weather is really bad. What are you going to do? Can you make it to school on time? What do you need to do to take care of that? Or the Prometric Center is in a really far location, maybe 3 hours drive. So is it worth the risk of waking up in the morning and driving 3 hours and then giving a 4 hour exam? Or is it better to drive over there the day before and check into a motel close by? So you have to identify all the risks that would be involved. Another risk that could be involved is, hey, what if I fail? I need to make sure that I have enough money to give my second attempt. So all these risks would be considered as a part of the project, and then everything gets completed in your last process group, which is closing, and that is done when you pass the exam and you are ready to celebrate. So that finishes a detailed review with some tips for taking your PMP or CAPM exam. This is Tutor Ali and I wish you all the best and I hope you pass your PMP exam. Thank you.